Hi everyone, Veer here, London-based nature-inspired abstract artist. Welcome to my art studio in the Wimbledon Art Studios. Today I wanted to walk you through my latest art challenge. I've released online my 12 Days for the Art Lovers Christmas Challenge, where basically every day for 12 days I release a new series of artworks, some of which have never been exhibited before and are brand new, some of which have never been exhibited before and they're ink studies. And what makes them interesting, or particularly interesting for this time of year, is that they're my most giftable artworks, which means that they're all under £50 each. So they're absolutely perfect for gifts, whether it's for Christmas or for another holiday, or whether it's for birthdays, if you, like me, have lots of family members or friends who have birthdays in December and January. So let's get to it. First up, we have my Echo screen prints. And the reason I call these Echo is because I'm focusing on the background image, the negative space, rather than the foreground florals. These are all entirely handmade by me, based on my original floral drawings. I then cut the stencil, apply the black paint using the stencil. So everything is done by me, there's nothing that's printed. And each one is limited edition of 200 based on the 10 different floral designs. And because they're all made by hand, every time you apply the paint, it comes out in a different way, which is the bit that really interests me. And you can see they're purely monochrome and really interesting for that black and white look. Next up, we have some of my florals and abstract patterns. So these are quite sort of sizable paintings. You can see that I need to stand on my tippy toes to show them properly. So these are based on some abstract patterns using liquid acrylic ink and calligraphy ink. And on the foreground, I added these almost urban, kind of graffiti, street art style florals using charcoal, paint pen, and graphite. And with these, I wanted the florals to not be as delicate as florals often are, but to just be a bit grittier, be a bit more bold, be a bit more in your face. And I thought that that really combined well with some of these kind of black and white background patterns as well. Next up, we have another one of my screen prints. Again, this time we're still focusing on the reverse, the negative space. So this time it's the color, and again, I do have the 10 different floral designs, and I have lots of different color combinations that I've played around with. There's some pinks, some fuchsias, some blues, some greens. You'll see online I've got loads more. But the key thing about these, I think, is that they're super colorful, super bright, very fun, and just easy to love. And like most of my artwork, particularly in this size and format, they're really good if they're actually displayed together. I think that can be quite an effective look. Next up, we have some of my ink studies. So this is when I was just starting out with ink. Before that, in the US, when I was selling and exhibiting there, I had worked with lots of color pastel and colored pencil. But in this case, when I moved to the UK, I wanted to play around with different media, and I was exploring water-based media, particularly ink. So I call these my ink studies because this is still when I was trying to master the two different ink types. There's the calligraphy ink, anywhere where you see pure black, and the liquid acrylic ink is where you see color. And I really wanted to master how the inks play together, how they interact together, how they interact with the water, with the paper. So that's why I call them my studies, because they were still at the stage when I was trying to master that art form. Next up, we have some more screen prints, again limited edition 10 florals, but this time they're more the classical screen print idea, in the sense that you're focusing on the foreground. The floral image is pure black paint. So these are very striking, and you'll see online I've got lots of close-up photos to have a better look of each one. But even though they are screen prints, each one has its own personality and its own almost fingerprints. Next up, we have some of my ink studies with the eyes. That's the key bit here. You see some abstract patterns, but the eyes is the key bit that makes it a bit different. So to me, with the eyes, there's a couple of ideas. One is there's lots of cultures that have this idea that there's the evil eye, and in order to protect yourself from the evil eye, you need to have some sort of charm or amulet in the shape of an eye. And I really like that idea that you have some charm or some symbol that protects you. And then second is, when I was traveling quite a bit, around the world, but also just moving countries. I really love this idea that you're seeing the world. You're seeing the world not only physically with your eyes, but you're seeing the world with your heart, with your soul, and you're really experiencing the world. Next up, sorry I'm rushing through these, but I want to get everything in. Next up we have my screen prints, but this time on vintage music sheet paper. So you can see the paper's a bit yellow, a bit creamy. That is because it's true vintage paper that I source from flea markets and secondhand shops around the world. It's not sort of tea stained or anything like that. It is genuine vintage paper. They're all classical music compositions, and again limited edition of 200. Next up we have some of my ink studies. This time they're just purely abstract patterns. This time I was really playing with the abstract shapes and abstract compositions and really combining some of these real sort of very bold, almost clean black and white lines with these really colorful, very free-flowing shapes. I like that juxtaposition. It sort of reminds me of some cities I've traveled to, like Japan, where you combine the uber modern with the really traditional, and that's what makes it interesting. This one I'm not sure if I showed you if we skipped by. You'll see online, there's loads more. Next up we have the ink studies, this time in a circle shape. And again, we have the calligraphy ink and the liquid acrylic ink in different compositions, different colors. I really just wanted to, like I say, get a handle on how they interact. And some of these, you can see, some of these there's lots of feathering and lots of bleeding that I think has turned out really well. Next up we have some of my newest artworks. And these are, again, the two different inks on the fine art watercolor paper. You can see there's some texture in the background. So this is a seascape. There's also purely abstract composition. You'll see online I've got a few more. Then we have some ink studies, but this time with some of these leaf shapes. And you can see the leaf shapes, they also have these almost pea pod type of patterns in them, or these almost polka dot patterns in them as well. And then last but not least, we have the only giclées in the series, and these are my original paintings that are then scanned and printed by fine art printers for me. So thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you soon, whether it's online or offline. Thank you again. Bye.